watching Criticom Link, back here today with another video. So as you guys know, I am now making a comeback on this channel. These videos are not going to be the same as they once were before. In last video, I gave you guys an idea of what kind of videos I was going to be uploading from this channel here on out. So now here we go. Let's officially start this new era. So movies and music, they're both pretty important to us as human beings. Even if we haven't really seen a movie for a long time, we've all seen one at some point in our lives and we know how they work, and we hear songs everywhere we go. Movies and music have both been a staple of our society for generations and generations now. So what is it about the more modern movies and music? So if you were to have a discussion with literally anyone, just one of your buddies, then it's a very big chance that you'll hear them remark how movies just aren't as good as they used to be, how, you know, originality is pretty much dying, and about how Hollywood sucks, moreover. That seems to be the general consensus among a lot of people, even people who enjoy the more recent comic book superhero movies like the Avengers movies and all the MCU ones. Even some of them would say the movie industry just isn't quite as prosperous as it once was. But what about music, on the other hand? You often don't really hear anyone remarking about how modern music is unless you specifically ask them about it, or unless you specifically search it on YouTube. What I mean about the movies is you don't even have to search it on YouTube. If you just type in movies on YouTube, you'll surely come across one of the very first videos that say how Hollywood and modern movies just aren't that great. But with music, you have to really search for it. I mean, there are videos out there that details what's wrong with the music industry in 2019, but you really have to search for them. What I'm getting out here is I think this is backwards. I think this should be reversed. I love a lot of modern movies, more so than a lot of the older ones, and I get where the argument is coming from there. You could swear that almost all movies that come out today are just sequels or prequels or reboots or remakes or adaptations of some sort, and you would not be wrong. They almost all are. I've sampled this list from IMDb here by the user Dakin Vega of all upcoming movies in 2019, and on this list you would have to scroll all the way down to number 24 before you find a 100% original movie. Think about that, number 24. That movie is Ad Astra. It's not a sequel, prequel, remake, reboot, adaptation of anything. It's just something that some filmmakers decided to sit down at a table one day and then, you know, they came up with an idea and there's the movie. All of the movies on the list before that are at least connected to some other piece of media or historical event throughout history. So I can see where this argument stems from. I agree with it completely. Modern originality is pretty much dead in Hollywood. However, if you turn to smaller movies that maybe got a limited theatrical release and don't have a big price tag to their name, then you will find gems when you look there, let me tell you. And actually, I have to say that some of my favorite movies of all time have been more recent entries, like just in the past few years. And I'm gonna name some examples. Django Unchained, Mad Max Fury Road, Manchester by the Sea, and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri. These are some of the best movies that I have ever seen, but the last 2 movies that I just listed, Manchester by the Sea and 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, I bet not a lot of people have even heard of those movies. They had a fairly small budget to their name, and they weren't really exposed to a mainstream audience. They maybe did have a theatrical run, but they just didn't gross back a lot of money. And I think this is really sad because these 2 movies I think are works of art. Even if you don't so much so agree with me, maybe you don't think that highly of these movies, but I do. I think these movies struck a chord with me, and they're some of my personal favorite movies of all time and very underrated. But nevertheless, it's not like it's difficult to find a great movie now. And even on the mainstream Hollywood scene, while they may lack originality, a lot of those movies are still very, very good. There are still plenty of very good movies coming out each year. The same cannot be said about music. No, 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 no. No! I can easily identify the last great song that came out on the radio, and that was Take Me to Church by Hozier. That's a great song, it's original, it tells a story, it has substance to it. Hozier's vocals are splendid to listen to, and he has easily some of the best vocals in recent memory. But that was 2014. That was 5 years ago. I mean, think about that. With movies, the most recent great one was just released 2 years ago. With music, it has been 5 whole years since anything great has graced the radio airwaves. What about ever since then? Oh my god. Oh my god. I can't even bear to talk about the obscene, abhorrent, ear-bleeding trash that we are all subjected to on the radio. The mainstream Billboard radio is filled with nothing more than heavily auto-tuned, dull, mind-numbing, factory-produced garbage. The hip-hop and trap rap scene that so many of my generation would tell you is good is nothing more than carbon copy, repetitive, lyrically vapid bullshit. And country music is literally the same song over and over again. Meanwhile, the rock and metal scene, my favorite type of music by the way, has been suffering. The majority of acts are in rock and metal are the older legendary bands that were famous in like maybe the 60s and 70s and 80s and 90s. The majority of rock and metal music that you hear comes from those bands that are still around, so I mean, you gotta give them credit for that. They've been around, they've been doing this for such a long time, but they just don't make the same caliber music that they once did. Considering all of the newer bands and artists in rock and metal that come out today, they don't really have an act anymore. It's an immense struggle to find a band today that's a Led Zeppelin or a Kiss or an AC/DC or an Iron Maiden or a Motorhead or a Rolling Stones. And I would say about 99% of the acts in rock and metal today are either really bland or just pale imitations of older, better bands. Bands like Ghost would be in that 1% category that actually have a distinguishable act of their own. Maybe if you look hard enough, and I mean you really do have to look hard when it comes to music, you will find some okay songs here and there. I'm not saying every song that's come out since 2014 has been pure trash. And look, I don't hate hip-hop or rap music. I hate pop music for sure. Pop music has pretty much always been garbage, but I love the older rap music like Eminem, NWA, basically from the 90s and 2000s rap, and even some in the early 2010s. It's just all of the newer hip-hop and rap music I find to be such abhorrent, unrepenting garbage. And I mean, even then though, I'm not saying that literally every single rap and hip-hop song that has come out in the past few years is pure utter garbage, although I will say most of them are. There are some okay songs that you can just sit down and listen to, and they don't make your ears bleed or want to make you pull your hair out or bang your head against the wall or jump off a cliff over how music has gone so far down the toilet this past decade. So anyway, I think people should redirect their hatred elsewhere. I think people should channel their hatred and outrage away from modern movies and redirect it over to modern music, because modern music is so much more worthy of being relentlessly bashed and torn apart by a large amount of people than movies are. And that is because there are still some great movies that come out each and every year. The same cannot be said about music. At best, you can find songs that are just okay and tolerable. That is the best you can get when it comes to modern music. If you really think modern movies are such trash and you don't really feel that same way about modern music, then I really urge you to please reconsider your thoughts. So that about wraps this video up. I'm gonna pose a hypothesis for you guys, specifically the ones who actually like modern music. I'm gonna name 4 rappers: Post Malone, 21 Savage, Lil Uzi Vert, XXX Tentacion. What's with all these stupid long names? And I'm gonna give you guys the chance to explain to me what is it about these artists that makes their music so different from one another? What is it about them and their music that distinguishes them from, you know, the other 3 that I just mentioned, and from the rest of the pack? Feel free to go ahead and leave me a really long essay in the comments if you want to. I mean, I'll view it. I mean, I'll read it and I'll respond to it. I mean, just go ahead. Let's start a discourse here. So be sure to follow me on Twitter, and if you would like to examine my weirder side, then feel free to check out my other channel, Mysteriosity, where I upload videos about all sorts of strange phenomena. Feel free to leave a comment, like, share, subscribe. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the near future. Peace!